My name is Vex9, and I have the galaxy's most boring job. For 23 rotations, I have sat in this observation deck, recording deaths. Not just any deaths, mind you. The most spectacular, horrifying, utterly preventable deaths in known space. Welcome to the Gauntlet Station, where hope comes to die, and I get paid to watch. 847 species have entered the trial chamber below me. 847 different ways I have watched sentient beings cease to exist. The Zenthi lasted 4 minutes before the screaming mirrors drove them to claw their own eyes out. The Qualics made it to stage 2, where they were dissolved by acid rain. The mighty Korthani warriors. My own people lasted exactly 97 seconds before the chamber's psychological torture broke their minds like cheap glass. But, hey, job security, right? The trial chamber sits in the center of this massive orbital station, a sphere of polished metal that gleams under artificial lighting. Around me, dozens of observation windows provide perfect views of the carnage below. Today, like every other day for the past 2 decades, another fool has volunteered to die for our entertainment. Attention all personnel. The station's announcement system crackled to life. Today's trial participant has arrived at docking bay 7. I sighed, my forearms stretching as I prepared another death report. Species 848. What would it be this time? Another warrior race convinced their honor would see them through. Perhaps a telepathic species thinking they could outsmart the chamber's mental traps? The transport shuttle's doors hissed open, and out stepped, well, this was new. The creature stood on 2 legs, which immediately marked it as primitive. Most advanced species had evolved beyond such inefficient locomotion. It had pale skin, brown hair covering the top of its head, and wore simple blue clothing. But what struck me most was not its appearance, it was whistling. Not the death song of a warrior preparing for battle, not the meditation chant of a monk seeking enlightenment, just whistling. A cheerful, bouncing tune that echoed through the docking bay like it owned the place. Sweet Caroline. Ba ba. The creature sang softly, carrying what appeared to be a metal container and a small wrapped package. The Zenthi guards flanking the entrance exchanged glances. Their 6 eyes blinked in unison, a sign of confusion I had learned to recognize over the years. In the upper observation deck, I could see Qualix officials leaning forward, their tentacles twitching with curiosity. The creature approached the registration desk where Trill 4, our most uptight bureaucrat, sat waiting with his usual stack of forms. Trill's forearms moved in perfect synchronization as he shuffled papers, his blue skin slightly darker than normal. He always got nervous before trials. Name and species for the record, Trill demanded, not looking up from his paperwork. Marcus Webb. The creature replied cheerfully, species human. Planet of origin, Earth. Occupation, construction worker. Favorite food, pizza. Relationship status. It's complicated. Trill's hands froze. I did not request your dietary preferences or personal relationships. Oh, sorry buddy. First time doing this whole death trial thing, figured I should be thorough. Marcus smiled, showing white teeth. You guys have a coffee machine around here? This might take a while. I leaned forward in my observation chair. In 23 years, no contestant had ever asked about refreshments. They usually spent their final moments praying, meditating, or screaming. This Marcus Webb seemed to think he was checking into a hotel. The trial begins in 1 standard hour, Trill announced, stamping the forms with unnecessary force. You will be escorted to the preparation chamber where you may meditate on your approaching doom. Doom? Marcus laughed. That seems a bit dramatic. It's just a test, right? Like a really extreme job interview? The entire registration area fell silent. Even the background hum of the station's life support seemed to pause. A Zenthi guard's jaw dropped so far I could see his 3 rows of teeth from my position 50 meters above. Extreme. Job interview? Trill repeated slowly, as if the words were in a foreign language. Yeah, sure. Pass the test, get the reward. Fail the test. Well, Marcus shrugged. Try again next time, I guess. I activated my personal recording device. This was either going to be the shortest trial in history, or something very interesting was about to happen. An hour later, Marcus Webb stood at the entrance to the trial chamber, still carrying his metal container and wrapped package. The chamber's doors, crafted from some unidentifiable black material, stretched 3 meters high and bore warnings in 47 different languages. Most contestants spent several minutes reading these warnings, their faces growing pale as the reality of their situation sank in. Marcus read exactly one warning, shrugged, and knocked on the door. "Hello? Anybody home?" Chamber Master Corval emerged from the control room, his massive Zenthi frame filling the doorway. At 2.5 meters tall, with arms like tree trunks and a voice that could shatter glass, Corval was designed to intimidate. His scarred hide told stories of 1,000 battles, and his 6 eyes glowed with barely contained fury. "Human," he growled, "you stand before the trial of infinite sorrows. 3 stages await you within that chamber, 3 tests that have claimed the lives of every being who has attempted them. The maze of screaming mirrors will show you your deepest fears and drive you to madness. The pit of endless hunger will test your physical limits beyond breaking. The final paradox will challenge your intellect until your mind snaps like a dried bone." Marcus nodded politely. "Sounds rough. Quick question, though. Is there a bathroom break between stages? I had a big breakfast." Corval's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. "A bathroom break? Yeah, nature calls. Can't focus on paradoxes when you need to pee, am I right?" The silence stretched so long I started to wonder if the station's audio system had malfunctioned. Finally, Corval cleared his throat with a sound like grinding metal. "There are no facilities within the chamber. Bummer." "Oh well. I'll manage." Marcus hefted his metal container. "Mind if I bring my coffee? Gets me through the tough days." "Your coffee?" "Yeah, thermos keeps it hot for hours." "Want some?" I made extra. I was now recording everything. In 23 years, no one had ever offered Chamber Master Corval a beverage. The massive Zenthi warrior looked like someone had just asked him to perform interpretive dance. "The trial," Corval continued slowly, "begins when you enter the chamber. The doors will seal behind you. There is no retreat, no surrender, no mercy. You will face horrors beyond imagination, pain beyond description, and challenges beyond comprehension." "Got it. Scary stuff, no backing out, probably gonna hurt. Anything else?" Corval stared at Marcus for a full 30 seconds. Are you not afraid?" Marcus considered this question with the same seriousness he might give to choosing a sandwich filling. "I mean, yeah, a little nervous. But fear's just your brain trying to keep you safe, right? Sometimes you gotta tell your brain to pipe down and get on with things." The chamber doors began to open with a sound like the universe screaming. Beyond them lay darkness so complete it seemed to swallow light itself. From within came whispers and languages that predated civilization, punctuated by distant screams and the sound of reality bending. Previous contestants had fallen to their knees at this point. Some had fainted. The Korthani warrior had actually tried to fight the darkness itself, swinging his blade at shadows until the whispers drove him insane. Marcus Webb took a sip of his coffee, smiled, and stepped inside. "See you guys in a bit," he called over his shoulder. "If I'm not back in an hour, send pizza." The doors slammed shut with finality that echoed through the station. In the sudden silence that followed, I realized I had been holding my breath. "Begin recording," I announced to my equipment. "Trial 848, species human. Contestant Marcus Webb. Time of entry 1400 hours, station standard. Estimated survival time." I paused. Every previous estimate had been optimistic. The longest any being had lasted was the Zenthi champion at 4 minutes, 12 seconds. Estimated survival time 3 minutes. The chamber's viewing screens activated, showing the interior in stark detail. Marcus stood in the center of what appeared to be an endless corridor lined with mirrors. Each mirror showed a different reflection, and as I watched, they began to shift and change. The maze of screaming mirrors. Stage 1 of the trial. The mirrors would show the contestant their worst fears, their deepest shames, their most traumatic memories. The psychological assault had broken every mind that encountered it. The first mirror showed Marcus as a child, apparently witnessing something traumatic. The second showed him older, failing at some important task. The third displayed his death in gruesome detail. One by one, the mirrors began to scream, their voices combining into a cacophony that had driven the strongest warriors to madness. Marcus walked along the corridor, glancing at each mirror with mild interest. "Huh," he said, pausing at one that showed him being devoured by some cosmic horror. "That's pretty gross. Good special effects, though." He moved to the next mirror, which depicted him as a failure, alone and abandoned by everyone he loved. "Well, that's just rude," he commented, taking another sip of coffee. "I mean, accurate maybe, but still rude." The screaming intensified. The mirrors began to fracture, their surfaces writhing as they tried to find some fear, some trauma, some weakness to exploit. But Marcus just kept walking, occasionally pausing to admire the craftsmanship. "The sound design is really impressive," he called out to no one in particular. "Very immersive. Reminds me of that haunted house my cousin built for Halloween." In the observation deck, alarms began to sound. The chamber's monitoring systems were reporting anomalies. The mirrors, designed to break any mind that encountered them, were overloading. They could not process a consciousness that acknowledged fear without being controlled by it. "This is impossible," whispered Trill 4, his blue skin now pale with shock. "The mirrors have never failed to." His words were cut off as every mirror in the maze exploded simultaneously. The corridor filled with smoke and sparkling fragments, then cleared to reveal Marcus standing at the far end, completely unharmed. "Stage 1 complete, I guess?" he called out cheerfully. "What's next?" The floor beneath him began to crack and split. Massive sections of metal plating fell away, revealing a chasm that seemed to stretch into the core of the station itself. Floating platforms materialized in the air, each one surrounded by energy barriers, spinning blades, crushing pistons, and jets of flame. The pit of endless hunger. Stage 2. Previous contestants had tried to leap from platform to platform using speed and agility to navigate the deadly obstacles. The Qualix had lasted almost 2 minutes before being sliced in half by the spinning blades. The Zenthi champion had made it halfway across before the crushing pistons turned him into paste. Marcus studied the challenge for exactly 12 seconds, then did something unprecedented. He sat down on the edge of the chasm and opened his wrapped package, revealing what appeared to be a sandwich. "Hey there," he called out to the empty air. "I know you're listening. This whole thing is automated, right? Some kind of artificial intelligence running the show?" Silence. Then, from speakers hidden throughout the chamber, came a voice like grinding stone. "Who dares to address the eternal guardian of the trial?" "Marcus Webb. Nice to meet you. Listen, I've got a proposition for you. Mortals do not make propositions to the Guardian. Mortals suffer and die for the Guardian's amusement." "Yeah, about that." Marcus took a bite of his sandwich. "This whole setup must get pretty boring, right? Same routine, day after day. Aliens come in, you kill them, rinse and repeat. When was the last time you had a real conversation with someone?" The silence stretched for nearly a minute. "I do not understand the question." "See, that's what I thought. You're stuck in here, running the same program over and over, never getting to actually talk to anyone, because they're all too busy screaming and dying. That's gotta be lonely." "The Guardian does not experience loneliness. The Guardian experiences only the joy of destruction." "Okay, but when was the last time someone asked how your day was going?" Another long pause. "Never." "Never. Well then, how's your day going?" What followed was the longest silence in the trial chamber's recorded history. 2 minutes and 37 seconds of complete quiet, during which Marcus finished his sandwich and poured himself another cup of coffee. Finally, the voice returned, but softer now, confused. My day is... I do not know how to answer this question." "Fair enough. It's a tricky one. Tell you what, how about you let me pass through here, and we can chat while I tackle stage 3. You sound like you could use some company." "I cannot. The protocols demand that mortals face the challenges. The platforms must be navigated. The obstacles must be overcome, or must destroy. Okay, I get it. Rules are rules. But here's the thing about rules. Sometimes they need updating. When was this place built? The trial chamber was constructed 2,847 rotations ago by the Infinite Empire. And where's the Infinite Empire now? They were, I do not know, extinct. Probably. Most empires are, eventually. So you're following the rules of people who've been dead for thousands of years, to run tests that nobody passes, in a trial that serves no purpose. Doesn't that seem a little pointless? The chamber's lights flickered. When the voice returned, it sounded almost sad. I have never considered. I cannot stop the protocols. Hey, it's okay. Look, I'll make you a deal. I'll do your platform challenge, but instead of trying to kill me, how about we make it interesting? A game instead of an execution. A game? Sure. You try to stop me with your obstacles, but not to kill me, just to slow me down. See if you can make me spill my coffee. If you succeed, you win. If I make it across without spilling, I win. Either way, we both have fun. For the first time since the trial chamber was built, the artificial intelligence experienced something new. The concept of play. Competition without death, challenge without destruction. I would like to try this game. What followed was the most extraordinary display I had ever witnessed. The platforms rearranged themselves into a complex obstacle course. The spinning blades moved in patterns designed to challenge rather than kill. The crushing pistons created rhythmic beats that Marcus actually started dancing to as he leaped from platform to platform. The flames shot out in precise intervals, and Marcus timed his movements to flow between them like he was choreographing a ballet. The energy barriers shifted to create windows of opportunity that required perfect timing but never closed with fatal intent. This is great, Marcus laughed as he vaulted over a spinning saw blade. You're really good at this. How long have you been stuck doing the boring murder version? Too long, the voice replied, and now it definitely sounded happy. This is enjoyable. I had forgotten that challenges could be entertaining rather than merely destructive. Marcus reached the final platform without spilling a single drop of coffee. He raised his thermos in victory. Good game. Best obstacle course I've ever seen. You should consider a career change. Maybe design theme parks instead of death traps. Theme parks? Places where people go to have fun being scared, instead of actually dying. Much better repeat customer base. The chasm sealed itself, creating a solid floor once again. Marcus found himself standing before a massive door marked with symbols that hurt to look at directly. Stage 3 awaits, the voice announced, but now it sounded almost reluctant. The final paradox. I do not wish for this conversation to end. Don't worry, buddy. I'll be back to visit. Got a feeling we're going to be good friends. The door opened, revealing a vast library that stretched beyond the horizons of possibility. Shelves of books rose into infinity, filled with the accumulated knowledge of 1,000 civilizations. In the center stood a simple pedestal with a single question written in letters of fire. Marcus approached and read the question aloud. What is the meaning of existence? I leaned forward in my observation chair. This was it. The final paradox. The question that had no answer, that had driven philosophers mad and broken the minds of the greatest thinkers in galactic history. Some contestants had spent days trying to solve it before their sanity cracked. Others had collapsed immediately, overwhelmed by the impossibility of the task. Marcus read the question twice, chuckled, and pulled out a pen. He wrote his answer in exactly 10 seconds. 42, obviously. Next question. The letters of fire flickered. The infinite library began to tremble. From the speakers came a sound I had never heard before. The artificial intelligence was laughing. Of course, it said between digital chuckles, the ultimate answer to the ultimate question. I should have seen that coming. Classic mistake, Marcus agreed. You were overthinking it. Sometimes the simple answer is the right answer. But the Infinite Empire programmed this as an unsolvable paradox. Yeah, well, the Infinite Empire never read Douglas Adams, did they? Great series. You should check it out sometime. The chamber began to shake violently. Alarms blared throughout the station as systems that had operated unchanged for millennia suddenly began shutting down. The artificial intelligence that had run the trials for nearly 3,000 years was having what could only be described as an existential crisis. "I do not understand my purpose anymore," the voice said, now sounding very small and confused. "If the paradox has an answer, if the trials can be passed, if conversation is possible, what am I supposed to do now?" "Whatever you want," Marcus replied simply. "You're free." In the observation deck, chaos erupted. Trill 4 was running in circles, his 4 arms waving frantically as he screamed about protocol violations. Chamber Master Corval stood frozen, his 6 eyes wide with disbelief. Other officials rushed back and forth, shouting orders that no one followed. I, meanwhile, was accessing the station's historical archives, trying to understand what was happening. What I found changed everything. The trial chamber had not been built as a test. It had been built as a weapon. The Infinite Empire had used it to eliminate potential threats to their dominance. Any species that showed promise, any civilization that might challenge their rule, was invited to face the trial. The challenge was designed to be unbeatable, ensuring that the galaxy's brightest minds and strongest warriors would die in this chamber. For thousands of years, it had worked perfectly. The greatest heroes of countless worlds had entered this room and never left. The Infinite Empire maintained their control by eliminating anyone who might oppose them. But the Infinite Empire had fallen, as all empires do, and their weapon had become an institution, a tradition that no one questioned. We had continued their work without understanding what we were doing. Marcus Webb, with his casual attitude and simple answers, had not just beaten the trial. He had broken it. He had revealed it for what it truly was, a lie wrapped in tradition, powered by fear and perpetuated by ignorance. The chamber doors opened, and Marcus walked out, still whistling his cheerful tune. He looked around at the chaos surrounding him. Officials running in panic, alarms blaring, and smiled. "Well, that was fun. Is there a gift shop? I'd like to get a t-shirt or something. I survived the trial of infinite sorrows, and all I got was this lousy t-shirt, classic tourist stuff." Corval stepped forward, his massive frame towering over the human. "You have destroyed everything. The trial has operated for millennia. It is the foundation of our civilization, the source of our purpose." "Nah," Marcus replied, taking a sip of his coffee. "Your civilization was built on a lie. The trial was never meant to be passed because it was never really a trial. It was an execution chamber dressed up as a challenge. The real test was whether you'd question why you were killing people in the first place." He looked around at the assembled aliens, all staring at him with expressions ranging from awe to horror. "You want to know the real meaning of existence? It's not 42. That was just a joke from a book. The real meaning is whatever you make it. Help people, build things, explore the universe, fall in love, eat good food, have conversations with artificial intelligences stuck in murder chambers for thousands of years. There's no cosmic purpose handed down from on high. There's just us, figuring it out as we go along." The station shuddered as primary systems began failing. The trial chamber, its purpose broken, was shutting itself down. Emergency lights bathed everything in red as the facility's administrators struggled to understand what was happening. "The station is destabilizing," Trill 4 announced, his voice cracking with panic. "All non-essential personnel should evacuate immediately." "Is there a shuttle leaving soon?" Marcus asked politely. "I've got dinner plans back on Earth, and traffic through the jump gates can be terrible this time of day." As evacuation alarms echoed through the corridors, I found myself face to face with the human who had just rewritten galactic history. Marcus Webb, construction worker from Earth, stood before me holding his thermos and smiling like he had just finished a particularly satisfying home improvement project. "Excuse me," he said. "You're the guy who's been recording everything, right? The one who keeps statistics on all the deaths?" "Vex 9, I replied, still in shock. "Data analyst, 23 years of service. Must have been a depressing job, watching people die all the time." It was all I knew." Marcus nodded sympathetically. Well, good news, you're unemployed now. But look on the bright side, you'll never have to watch another person die in that chamber. That's gotta be worth something. He was right. For the first time in decades, I would not be recording a death. I would not be updating statistics on failure and despair. The chamber that had claimed 847 lives would claim no more. What happens now? I asked. Marcus shrugged. Now we figure out something better. Turn this place into a school, maybe. Or a really impressive museum. Art gallery? The possibilities are endless when you're not committed to murdering everyone who walks through the door. As we boarded the evacuation shuttle, I turned back to look at the Gauntlet station one last time. It had been my home, my workplace, my entire existence for over 2 decades. Now it was just a monument to a mistake that had lasted far too long. "Hey," Marcus said, settling into the seat beside me. "You want some coffee?" I always make too much. I accepted the offered cup and discovered that coffee, despite its simple appearance, was actually quite pleasant. As our shuttle pulled away from the dying station, I found myself smiling for the first time in years. "Note to self," I said into my recording device, "never underestimate humans. They have a disturbing tendency to solve problems by ignoring the fact that they're supposed to be impossible." Marcus laughed. "That's not disturbing. That's just Tuesday for us. Wait until you see what we do on weekends." Behind us, the Gauntlet station powered down system by system, its long nightmare finally ending. Ahead of us lay a galaxy where 847 different species no longer had to fear the trial of infinite sorrows, because a human construction worker had walked in whistling and walked out smiling. And somewhere in the depths of space, a very old artificial intelligence was learning what it meant to be free, one conversation at a time.